We've been told that we're not Jewish enough. Yeah, but my feeling towards that, no, it didn't even move me. We pretty strong culture. We went through a lot, and we're pretty strong. No one can move me.
Well, Mama...
And actually all of us, the whole group of people who went through same thing, no. Nothing will move us. Whatever we think and how more Jewish, less Jewish, there's nothing like that. The way I feel about being Jewish, that's how I am. And whoever wants to be more Jewish, whoever wants to be less Jewish, it's their problem.
That's my mother, everybody.
Еврейская вера, ди так и так и так, надо рано уставать. Люли, люли, да люли, надо рано уставать. Люли, люли, да люли, надо рано уставать.
In the book Yentil's Revenge, contributor Dalia Sofer writes about Sephardi and Mizrahi Jews alienated by the dominant Bagel-and-Lox culture. Although I certainly benefit from Ashkenazi privilege, I can also relate to the experience of alienation from this kind of dominant Jewish culture. It was learning about marginalized Jewish identities that actually got me thinking about my own self-doubt regarding my Jewish authenticity. As an immigrant from the former Soviet Union, my experience of Judaism has been vastly different from that of my Canadian Jewish peers. My name is Vladislava Belyak. I was born in 1988 in Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine, when it was still part of the Soviet Union. Several generations of my family, all Jewish, grew up there. My parents met and were married there. 2 years after I was born, in 1990, my parents and I moved to Ashkelon, Israel. 4 years and a new baby brother later, we immigrated to Canada, where we've lived mostly in and around Toronto. When my family first immigrated to Canada, we lived in immigrant neighborhoods populated by people with very similar backgrounds to my own. Many of my peers in elementary school had also emigrated from the former Soviet Union and spent time in Israel before settling in Canada, so that experience was incredibly common to me. It wasn't until my family moved to the suburbs that I realized that non-immigrant Canadian Jews had an experience of Judaism very different from mine. Not only did I have large gaps of knowledge in Jewish tradition and observance, but I was also unable to relate to many of the more superficial markers of Jewish identity, like having a favorite bagel, or wearing sweatpants, or going to sleepover camp. It wasn't until a few years ago that I actually realized that I had been subconsciously associating those superficial elements of dominant Jewish culture with authentic Judaism. My inability to relate to my non-immigrant Jewish friends' ideas of Jewishness made me feel inauthentic, and I feared being discovered and outed as a fake Jew. I wanted to use this project to explore how my Soviet identity and immigration experience contributed to these feelings of Jewish inauthenticity, so I interviewed some others with similar backgrounds in an attempt to contextualize my own experiences.
My name is Maria Passover. I'm 20 years old, and I live in Glenview, Illinois. I was born in Kiev, Ukraine, and I moved to Chicago, like around Devon area, and it was like West Rogers Park for a couple years. We moved in 1993, so I was 3.5 years old.
I'm Ari Kravitz. I'm 19 years old, and I'm in the north suburbs of Chicago. Well, I myself am not an immigrant. My whole family is. Mm-hmm. They came to the U.S. in February of 91, and I was born 2 months later in April 23rd.
My name is Ilya Bernstein. I'm 21 and I live in Richmond Hill, Ontario, Canada. I was born in Tashkent, Uzbekistan during the Soviet Union, so I'm still part of Russia. When I was 3, so that'd be 1990, around there, I moved to Israel. Lived in Israel for 4 years till I was 7, and then when I was 7, in 1996, we moved to Canada.
My name is Anna Alexeyeva. I am 21 years old, and I go to school in Chicago. I grew up in St. Louis. I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia. I was born in 1989, shortly after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then in 1994, my family, immigrated to the United States.
My name is Yelena Kapustin. I'm 21 years old and I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I was born on April 7, 1989 in Gomel, Belarus. And when I was a year and a half years old, so in 1990 I guess, we moved to Israel. And then in 1996 we moved to Canada.
When I moved to Canada first, for probably the first 5 years, we lived in Atherton Steeles, which, as you know, is a very Jewish Russian area. So most of my friends had the exact same immigration path as me. We're all from Israel, from Russia in the first place, then came here, and then we all spoke Russian. Like about that. Then in 2000, we moved to Richmond Hill, and my group of friends really changed because there's a lot less Russian people here. So I actually had a lot more like different background friends.
When I grew up and I had Jewish friends that were Canadian, it was totally different. I didn't feel at all that I was connected to them, only maybe soulfully connected to them. But they would be so much more Jewish than I was. Like they would have a Hanukkah and go to these various occasions and things like that I never really did. And I would say, I'm Jewish, but I don't really celebrate much. So they were definitely a lot more Jewish, I guess, than I was, and it made me feel like being Soviet Jewish meant downplaying Judaism, almost, I guess.
When I was in second grade, my parents moved to a house, like I said, and we moved to a school district that was not Jewish at all. And in fact, had probably out of 2,000 students in Pattonville High School, which is a school district, there was probably three Jewish people. So when I went to that school district in middle school, I actually felt kind of, I was like one of the Jews. One of my best friends was the other Jewish girl. Mm-hmm. And so despite the fact that I didn't really practice or anything, I do remember vaguely from what I can recall, kind of viewing my identity specifically as Jewish, just because no one around me was Jewish. And then I remember at the same time, during Passover, she would bring matzah to school and have a matzah sandwich, and I would still be eating bread. My grandma doesn't really understand much about Judaism, but she feels very strongly about its importance.
The only thing that was in my house growing up about being Jewish was that I always knew it, and my parents would always say they would call it my nationality. That's what they would always say, because that's what was ingrained in them, I think. Okay. And I was always really confused, because that's not how school teaches you. Even public, I always went to public school, but there's religion, there's nationality. Nationality is being Russian or something like that, but they're no, you're not, because Russian to them is not Jewish Russian. So that's the only, I had a necklace or something and things like that that were kind of symbols of the fact that I was, but it was nothing, really, it wasn't something real, I think. It was kind of something external, and yeah, mm-hmm. It was kind of there.
First of all, I don't even remember when I understood that I'm Jewish. Growing up, это не было Jewish. It was just growing up. That's it, like everybody else. By the time I'm seriously don't even remember when I understood that I'm Jewish. I don't remember. Maybe in school. Maybe before. I don't remember. There was nothing special about it. Because religion wasn't allowed, and